We're in a letter number 4, and we're discussing here a phenomenal idea, which is really, this letter is really, even though it's a letter written by the Alter Rebbe some 200 years ago, it's very practical to our journey in life, to our story. And we're discussing, what does that mean, redemption? And we explained the word geula, the word redemption, while of course we're talking about redemption, Mashiach coming, it really means revealing our true selves. Because everything in the world has the micro and the macro, the miniature and the big. For an example, the Jewish people, or human being in general, is called the Olam Katan. Our body is called the miniature world. What does it mean, the miniature world? It means on many levels. In some places you find in Kabbalah it's brought down that the physical body has all the physical features of the universe. Like a hair represents the forest and the water, and all the physical features of the universe are found within the human body. But also all the experiences of history, all the biblical mentions of history and the story of the world is found within our body. That means in our life, that means we have our moments of going out of Egypt. We have our moments of the splitting of the sea. We have our moments of exile. We have our moments of redemption. In other words, all events of world history can be encapsulated in the human story of each individual person's life. And therefore, when we talk about redemption, there's redemption on the big scale, Mashiach coming, bringing redemption to the world, healing, safety, security, happiness, remove all pain and suffering and anxiety and sadness, and bringing the world to its fulfillment. Yeah, the same thing in the personal journey of a Jew, and every person, but in the Jew in particular, and that is to come to that state of redemption. Now, redemption means your true self coming out. The true me is my godly soul, my identity as one of God's souls, one of a experience, a soul, a entity that is bound with God, that only wants what's good and right in the eyes of God. But life happens, as we say. And in the course of life, there are many layers that cover over our true identity. Some are experiences that happen outside. We're intimidated by people. We were traumatized by an experience as a child or as an adult. We have things that get in our way. We have temptations. We have distractions. We have things that bother us. We have egos. We have many things, and we have all sorts of other things that come up in life. And these things conceal and block and cover over. Our job is to remove that. In a spiritual sense, we call that the circumcision, removing that which conceals. In other words, the role of redemption, the idea of redemption means removing all that which conceals my true self. The real me. They say the greatest achievement a person can have in life is to live. And it sounds like, what do you mean to live? No, it means to live as yourself. Don't try and live to fit into society, to conform to an experience. You're intimidated by, you're in public speaking, you're in a public scenario, you're amongst people. You have people. Who are you? Are you living? Are you experiencing your true self, your warmth, your passion, your talents, your life, your energy? Or are you crimped and cramped and held back by things around you? A lot of us don't live to our full potential because of fears, because of intimidation, because of challenges we've experienced, because of lack of motivation, because of fear of success. There's a book that came out, the women read it a while ago. It was called, What Would You Do If You Weren't Afraid? Or how would you live if you weren't afraid? Meaning, if you had nothing holding you back, what would you be? What would you do if you could be? This is redemption. Redemption means the true you coming out. This is what we're talking about in this chapter. You have it in the small scale in the human being, and you have it in the large scale in the universe. Redemption, the world that God made was not meant to be a place with pain and suffering and wars and poverty. Those are all things that blocking the true identity. The true identity of the world is godliness. Godliness is only good. There's no negativity. Any negativity or any distraction from perfect goodness is concealment. It's covering over. So Mashiach comes means removing that which covers over. Or in the words that we said last time we studied, add the aleph into Gola. Gola means exile. The aleph you put in the right spot, it spells geula, redemption. So all we're doing is we're not taking away anything. We're not changing anything. We're just adding the aleph. What does aleph mean? God. Aleph represents aluf v'shel olam, the God, the one God who created heavens and earth. Let godliness become revealed, and you will see the world's a beautiful garden. It's not a jungle. It's not a chaos, disconnected, random happening, haphazard, the strong survival of the fittest, the strongest win. No, it is a world that God is guiding and designing. The problem is we often don't see it. It's like looking at a box of a puzzle pieces. You buy a 500-piece puzzle, and you don't know what they put in here. But if you just reveal and put it together and look at the big picture, you go, wow, that's awesome. It wasn't put together properly because it wasn't revealed what it really is. So now, going back to our discussion. So we said here that a person, through the power of tzedakah, comes to redemption, comes to the stage. So what is this? So just to explain one more idea, and then we'll go into inside. There's two paths how we relate to God. When I say paths, I mean two options how it can be. One is isarusa de la'ela, one is isarusa de l'sata. Isarusa means an awakening. We woke up. Sometimes the awakening comes from our side. We start a process. We sort of initiate, and sometimes God's initiate. I'll give you an example. We initiate means I go to work in the morning. I work for 6 hours at $20 an hour. Hopefully that's a good price. And I get $120. I earned, it was my effort, my work that earned the results. When my boss went and gave me $120, that didn't come from him. I mean, it came from him. But I initiated by doing my part. I went, spent 6 hours working, and now he paid me $120. So that's called Isarusal, that I, on my part, did an effort that brought out the results from above. Sometimes somebody can give you a gift. You don't deserve this, necessarily. I love you. I care about you. I'm giving you a $120 gift. That's called inspiration from above. I didn't do anything to earn that gift. I got that gift because you decided to give me the gift. That's the difference between if I inspired it, I initiated it, did I do my part, and then I received reciprocation, or did God do it and I reciprocate? The truth is, in all cases, I initiate. What does that mean? When someone gives me a gift, why did they give me a gift, not a gift to that guy? There's something about me that attracted them to me. Either I'm their child, they love me, or because I once gave them a ride to the airport last year, they want to show me appreciation, or sometimes that the person gives me a gift just feels good. I like that guy, and I get a certain joy out of giving you a gift, which means the giver is getting something or got something, which is why I'm giving the gift. What's the big difference? The big difference is the gift going to be matching or commensurate, or going to be, as we say, appropriate, when they say disproportionate response, is it going to be proportionate to what I did? So if I initiated it and I earned it, what I get is going to be proportionate to what I gave. I worked for 6 hours at $20 an hour. I'm getting $120. But if I'm getting a gift, even if I initiate it, I can get $1,000. I can get $10,000. There's no limits. It's like a tip. I pay now. The tip could be 10%, 18%, 20%. Sometimes the tip could be $1,000. Not too often. But the tip, why? Because a tip is not guided by you. It's guided by how generous I'm feeling. Of course, now in the world, everything's preset. Anywhere you go, you want a tip or not? You sure you don't want a tip? How come you don't want you? You get guilted in the tipping. But the idea of a tip, of a gift or a thank you really is not limited to what you earn. It's what I chose as my kindness to give you. So therefore, we have two ways of working with God. Sometimes God gives us something, whether it's inspiration or love or warmth or blessings, because I did something and I earned it. Sometimes God does something and inspires me, and I'm like, whoa, how much I get if it comes from God, even if I on some level started it, but it wasn't being paid commensurate or proportionate to what I did, that could be an unlimited amount of reward. So Isarusa de Losata, I'm always going to inspire when I comes from me, I'm going to inspire a proportionate response from God. When it's from above, even though I started it, I said, I smiled to God. God said, you know what? I love your smile. Here's $10,000. I didn't earn that because it wasn't a payment for what I did. It came from God. Therefore, it's unlimited. This is going to be the two different parts of a circumcision. A circumcision, we said, has the coarse part, the main part you take off first. That is my part that I do, removing the negative in my life. I have to stop being coarse, stop looking at people in a negative eye, and stop being so critical, and stop being so judgmental, and stop being so selfish. All things I got to change, get rid of in my life. God's response is going to be, so to speak, commensurate, which means I will now do something unbelievable back. I will go and what's called removing the membrane. I will make you not just refined in your coarse behavior to be finer behavior. I will give you a tremendously sensitive heart to feel spirituality, which means I didn't necessarily earn that much or get that much, but I'm getting a payment more than I could do on my own. But then you have sometimes a gift that really comes from God. and this is an unbelievable awakening from above. What gets that started? What can light that fire? What could be me? I got to do something that got it's from above, not because I earned it. What could do that? And we'll see that tzedakah. Tzedakah is something that could wake up a wealth of opening from above that no other thing can do. It's not a payment. It's a reward. It's not a payment. It's a gift. It's not a reward. It's an absolute gift. But what could elicit that gift? My tzedakah. That's what we're going to say. That's the layout of what we're going to do today. Okay, we're inside here on page 210 if you're following inside the pages. And here it goes. He says, V'chein, just like you have we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom, the fourth to last word on page 210. We said, just like in the world globally, redemption means revelation of godliness in the world. There's also there's the individual, my little world, revelation of God, which you call. That means each one of us have a spark. And each one of us here, there's a spark of our true identity. Who is Moshe Rapoport? I don't know. Who is Moshe Rapoport? He is a godly soul that came down to this world, which is an unbelievable fire energy resource. It's like a nuclear power plant. But sometimes, unfortunately, it's being concealed and blocked and dormant because of various factors. Redemption in my life means I am letting that free. I am letting all that stuff that covered over my soul, my energy, my true self fall apart or fall away. And I am going to live 100% fully my true, who I really am. We'll come to the revealed state. He says, the same thing he said, just like you have when Mashiach comes, you have the full redemption. But just like every person can experience redemption, there's something where, like we said, everything in the world has the sub, like, you open the babushka dolls, there's another one inside. Everything has inside each person. Every day is also possible to have, just in that day, a moment of Mashiach, a moment of redemption. Where is that? That is when a person davens. When a person prays, there's something amazing about prayer. If a person engages in prayer, you see, in the beginning of Tanya, we had, I forget where it was exactly. I think it was somewhere around chapter 16 or 17. We had a discussion that Hashem made the world. There are some people who are born to struggle, and they're going to struggle all their life. When I say struggle, I mean financially. I have those too. That's also an option in life. I struggle, I mean, to overcome my weaknesses. I'm going to constantly struggle not to say what I shouldn't, not to look what I should, not to eat what I shouldn't, not to bear a grudge, not to think negative. There's always that struggle, and that's what God wants from 99.9% of the population. Your journey is to struggle, and every time you overcome a challenge, you get points. You don't get points for perfect. God's not interested in perfect. He has angels for that. He wants you to have challenges and to overcome those challenges, to overcome the day, live to your best ability that day. If you failed 3 times yesterday, fail twice today, and that's called success. Perfection is not the goal. The goal is overcoming today's challenges. That's the story of the Beinoni. That's the story of the whole Tanya. It's written for that Beinoni. All of us. We're all not going to be perfect. We're all going to struggle, and we hopefully each day we're a little bit better than the day before. Or if you want to look at the big picture, each month and each year we're improving in our lives, even though we may have some off days. Then you have the tzaddik. The tzaddik is a very unique individual. There's only 1 or 2 or 3 in a generation. Very few. Those are people that have no animal soul, have no desires, have no evil inclination. There's nothing in their life they do, not just for wrong reasons, even selfish. Never took a drink because they were thirsty. Took a drink because their body needed it. Never ate food or because it was delicious. Ate food because their body needed it. And that's what God wanted they should live. Never said a word because they wanted to express themselves. This is what was needed to be said. They didn't do what they wanted. They did what was supposed to be done. They were employees of God, 120 years, 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They were 100% engaged, and nothing was for selfish reasons. And it wasn't for a struggle. It was natural. They don't have any struggles. They're perfect. They don't have any temptations. That role does not apply to everybody. It's for a very unique Rebbe, Rabbi Akiva. It's for very great souls. But everyone has a few moments of the day when you could be there. See, at a regular time, right now, I might have a temptation to go do something I shouldn't. I really want to have a piece of chicken now, but I just had a piece of chocolate. And what should I do? It's a struggle. You can get to a place where it's not, when is that? When you daven. When a person goes into the shul and prepares for davening and goes into the shul, not a quick social or enjoyable or routine experience. I'm going there and I'm putting outside the world. I'm putting outside all the noise. I'm getting into my sitter. While you're getting to that zone, it might only last for 3 minutes that you're in the zone. It might last an hour. Depends how you prepare. It depends how lucky you are. That moment, God allows you to live 100% evil inclination free, animal soul free. You will not have temptations to suddenly go and do a sin. Now, if you get out of that zone, you have a temptation to talk during davening because you're not in the zone. But if you get into that zone where you're really just davening, you can get to a place where you're like that tzaddik. The only interest I have right now is to pray and connect to God. In other words, I'm experience A, tzaddik land, tzaddik experience, or B, redemption experience. In other words, davening could be, while davening is known as the time of war, because to get to that place, it's a battle. But when you get to that place, you get to that right spot, that perfect, harmonious, serene place of davening, and it could last just for 2 pages. But in those 2 pages, you actually achieved davening. Davening means connection. Davening, we say always, to ask. That's a technicality. Once you're connected to God, it's a good time to ask. But davening is not about asking for stuff. Davening is about tefillah, means to bond, like tefillah, the tie. We want to bond with God. That moment when you're bonding, you're living in the redemption mode. Your true self is revealed. Even though 2 hours later you might be arguing with your friend and yelling at your mother or arguing with your kid or doing something you shouldn't, saying something you shouldn't, doesn't matter. Because now you're going back to being a regular human being, a regular Bainani. But for those 2-3 minutes of davening, you achieved absolute redemption, absolute tzaddik level. That is the gift of davening. And that's what he says here. He says, V'chein, kol nitzutz prati, every single spark of God, that means every single individual Jew, which is a part of God, which is within the soul of every single Jew, it's redeemed from the exile and from the captivity. It's from a moment of freedom. You get to experience freedom. Where is that? In the true moment of davening and the service of the heart. If you can get there, and we say, by the way, how does somebody get there? How does somebody get to that place? So for a yeshiva boy or for a man, there's 3 things you do. You go to mikvah, you give charity, and you learn some chassidus. For a person who doesn't go to mikvah every day, you wash your hands like you would in the morning, you give some charity, and you meditate. You think about godliness. You learn chassidus. What does that mean? You think about where I am. Chapter 41 of Tanya tells you what to think about. Take the first 30 lines of chapter 41. It tells you exactly what to think about before you pray. And you put yourself in that zone. That allows you, those are like the keys to get into the inner sanctuary. And now, if you did the tzedakah, and you did the preparation of washing your hands, and you did the preparation of thinking about where you are, what you are, who you are, and what we're doing, you can actually get into that place. The question is, how did that tzedakah get into here? I see why you should purify yourself. I see why you should meditate. But how about white tzedakah? Maybe kiss the mezuzah. Maybe make a blessing. How does tzedakah, that's what we're going to talk about. How does tzedakah become the doorway? How does that become the entryway to prayer or to freedom or to redemption? So he says like this. The person has to get to the place of davening from the depth of your heart, from the true essence of your soul, which comes from removing the 2 layers. We said the circumcision, but talking about the metaphor, is a thicker level, the thicker coarse skin that's to be removed. That represents removing the coarse flaws we have, being overcritical, judgmental, etc. And the very thin membrane, which represents the very fine sensitivity, and that is what God can do. We can't do that. That God does for us. And that is how we get into prayer. It's like this. Revealing the things that cover over our heart, when we mean our heart alone, we mean our soul. The and the word aza, not to be confused with the Gaza, which is the same word. It comes with a yearning of aza, means strength. It is a yearning of strength. Suddenly your soul feels it. It's like an amazing concept. Again, you have a relationship of a brother and a sister. I don't know which one to use example here. A brother and a sister, a husband and a wife, a mother and a daughter. You have a relationship that for some reason there's been some issues going on for a month, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 20 minutes. But sometimes you could put all that aside and suddenly you just feel that old yearning, like looking at like 2 years old on a swing. And you miss that sweet, simple moment where life was so pure. It was no issues and no challenges and no complexities, and you just have a yearning for that pure moment where there's nothing there, that moment of yearning that comes in davening, that you just want to just feel one with Hashem, this comes from Laman Chayecha, knowing that God is your life. You see, a person could get caught up in life and think, my life comes from my food, my life comes from my hard work, my life comes from my all the things that I get provided for, the government, my friends, whatever you want to think of. That's all external. You know where your life comes from? Hashem. Hashem is the provider, not just of your oxygen, not just of your blood, but of your biology and your existence and the world and the floor you're standing on. God is the sole source of all life, meaning everything. When someone gets to that place, you start realizing, I am nothing more or nothing less. It's a mixture of humbling and empowering. I am an extension of godliness. I am one with God. I am part of godliness. And that could awaken within ourselves something tremendous. And that comes not from our effort. It comes from different effort. What does that mean? I want to explain this. It's a very key point of this chapter. There's two reasons why you could love someone. And we spoke about this in the beginning, so it's going to be repetitious a little bit, but it's important to remind ourselves here. There's two reasons why I could love somebody. I could love somebody because of logic. For an example, a person was very good to me the last 10 years. They always gave me a ride to work. They always made me lunch. They're always kind to me. They're such nice people. These are logical reasons, good reasons to love somebody. Then I could love somebody for absolutely no reason. Why do you love them? Because it's my son. He's my daughter. I don't have to come and say, let me think of reasons why I should love my kid. Like the example I said last time, if you remember, like it's you're going to a friend's wedding. You have to think, should I go to the wedding or not? Should I go? It's a cousin. Should I go or not? If it's your daughter's wedding, you don't think, well, should I go? Should I not go? If you have that question, there's a much bigger issue here. If you have a question if you should attend your own child's wedding, there's a much bigger challenge. And there are, by the way, real challenges in life. It's not for now. But the real relationship of a parent with no massive factors come in the way, it's not because, you know what, he's a good kid. He's been around our family for a while. Have so many memories together. Not that expensive, the ticket. Have off that weekend anyway. I'm going. If that's your calculation of going, you gotta seek some counseling. You should go to the wedding. You know why? Because it doesn't matter. What do you mean? Am I going to the wedding? Are you going to your own wedding? Are you going to attend your own wedding? It's like not. What does that mean? You're saying so it's illogical. It's not illogical. It's super rational. I'm going because not that there's a reason or logic for it. This is who I am. This is my identity. If I am not going to this wedding, which wedding should I go to in the world? If I'm not attending the wedding, who am I? I'm this boy's mother. I'm this boy's child. I'm this boy's father. In other words, the reason I'm going is not based on a reason. It's based on my identity. That's what we're talking about here. We in the very beginning of the chapter, there's two ways to love God. I love God because He is my supplier, my good. He's such a good thing. Or I love God just because this is God. To get to that point means I removed all my layers, and my reason for loving and relating to God is like a mother relating to a child. I don't have a reason. I just have to remove all the things that's getting in the way. You can have reasons that you get in the way. I don't want to give examples because it's sometimes people have painful things in their lives, but there are things that can get in the way of a parent-child relationship. Some of them could be physical, some could be emotional, some could be spiritual, but the things that can get in the way. But if those things are removed, you don't need to be now explained. So now let me tell you why you should love your child. No. Remove all those negative traumas, pains, distractions, influences, and automatically your real self will flow and you'll just be one. So when it comes to a true love, it's not a love with a reason. It's like a difference we said many times between an immature love of a new couple and the love of a couple that's married many years. A new couple, you say, why do you love your spouse? Because he's so handsome, she's so beautiful, he's so caring, he's so kind. We have great times together. Ask someone married 50 years, why you love them? Because they're my wife. Still my husband. But how, you know what? At that point, if God forbid any of those things went away, love's no less. I'm no longer loving them for the external reasons. I grew past that. The immaturity of the first couple of years of marriage, or some people it's 20 years, some people it's 2 years, but the immaturity of the early years of marriage is that I'm loving you for a reason. And if God forbid the reason went away, I would be challenged. Should I stay with this person or not? Because I'm married, and that's, by the way, many divorces happen for the wrong reasons. Divorces can happen for real reasons. Many divorces happen because I married them for a reason. That reason's not there anymore. They made my life happy. Those are immaturity. You know what happens when you love someone? They could, God forbid, be restricted to a bed 24 hours a day. And you love, and you would never dream of separating yourself from them. Why? Because I don't love them because of what they give me. This is my spouse. This is my love. That is called a love that is above das. Mashiach means hesach hadas. What does it mean, hesach hadas? There's no logic anymore. It's no longer about logic. I'm not involved with this person because what they give to me or what they mean to me. Their friendship has blossomed to a point. I just love them. And the truest place to see this is in a mature love of a husband and wife, or in a regular love of a mother and a child. Parents, fathers too sometimes. But you see it more by the mother because the father has something called an ego, which is another discussion. Not me, to other fathers. No. Yeah. So she's like this. Meaning this that I love Hashem in this level didn't come because I sat down and started thinking. In what way do I love God? Okay, so he is strong. He's powerful. He gave me a good breakfast this morning. He provided me with a good job. Those are all means that, but there are things that made me love God, and those things go away, so I get mad at God. There's a very painful letter that was found. And when the Warsaw Ghetto was destroyed, they found a letter somewhere in the Warsaw Ghetto. I read this years ago, so I could be mixing up some details, where a man, his wife, and 6, 7 kids, I don't know, all killed. And he said, this guy writes a letter to God. He says, God, they found a scratch somewhere in the wall. They found this written, you took my wife and you took my kids, but you'll never take away my love for you, my faith in you. Now, that's a very deep thing, which I'm not going to try and explain and analyze because it's beyond maybe what I could truly appreciate. That the love and the relationship with God is above everything else. You know what that means? That means a man loves his wife and loves his child no matter how much they hurt them. No matter how much pain you cause me, I love you because I don't love you for reasons. I love you just because. And that's what we're talking about here. But that doesn't come on our own. That has to be a gift. So we started saying before that there's 2 types of relationship. I can earn something. I can work on something and earn a certain feeling. I can earn it, or I can get it as a gift. This level of loving God above logic comes as a gift from God. To get there, we can't get there on our own. God has to hand us this gift and say, here, I am now giving you a gift. You will now love me like a mother loves a child, like a married couple for 50 years love each other. Or hate each other. That's later. Okay, but they love each other. The bottom line is this relationship is a gift from God. But how do we get it? Tzedakah. The answer is going to be tzedakah. Why is that? Because we know one thing. The gift comes because Yaher Hashem Panav Elecha. It comes because Hashem opens up and He shows His face to us. You see, sometimes you can't relate to a person because they don't show you their true selves. We have a few minutes. They don't show you your true selves. So there's like a wall. They're not vulnerable to you. They're not allowing themselves open. They have, we all have protective. You meet somebody, we have so many layers of protection when you go somewhere that it's hard to be inspired or affected because we're so used to all the negative energy out there that we have built up walls of protection. But to actually open up and show yourself to someone else, to show your feelings, your emotions, yourself, and to express unconditional love, this is something which the receiver who gets that and doesn't have any layers can receive that in a way that is a bond that's amazing. Vulnerable, unconditional love received by somebody who's vulnerable with unconditional love to you is absolute oneness connection. This is what God does us. Hashem opens up, He shines His face to us. That is what it means when we say God makes the circumcision of the thin membrane. That's a technical, we said before, everything in the physical body is a metaphor for something much bigger, or something much bigger. When we say God circumcises our heart, removes the thin membrane, that's fine stuff. Another way to say it is God reveals Himself to you. There's no more barriers. There's no more space between you and God. There's no more space between us. We are absolutely one, absolutely connected, absolutely opening myself up to you. Now, in order to understand this last point of the tzedakah connection, the Alter Rebbe is going to give one more brief point, which I already spoke about, so we can go right inside. And this is the idea of that every single gift that comes from above, even if it's the most grandest, disproportionate gift, there's something that I did that made that gift happen. I did something. I did something that the person said, you know what? Here's $1 million for your project you're working on. You're working on something. Why'd you give me $1 million? What? There's something about what you're doing that I like. There's something about your organization that I like. There's something about your family that I like. There's something. Meaning, what's that something that God likes? Here it goes. We have to remember one special rule. Even when you have an awakening from above, that means that God's giving you a gift. It's not an earned income. There has to be first from below a somehow a reaching out. Use here, as we use all over Hasidus, the metaphor of a male and female relationship, masculine and feminine relationships, and this is a very key theme, or very central theme, I should say, in all of Hasidus. When we talk about the two roles of the giver and the receiver, we always use masculine and feminine. That's why God's always called he. Why is God called he? He doesn't have a body. He doesn't have a gender. That's really the ultimate gender-neutral person out there is God. But God is a giver, and the giver is called he, is male. Now, it doesn't mean that the woman's not a giver too. We'll see in a moment. The woman starts the process and finishes the process. Let's take an example of having a child, the ultimate giving. While the man is the giver, he gives the seed, the woman, first of all, is the one that takes that seed and develops into a child. But more than that, if she doesn't open herself up to him, if she doesn't show some initial attraction or interest in him, he can't give. In other words, let's look at it, God. If we don't show some initial, we are the female in the story here, if we're the feminine, if we don't show some initial reaching out to God, God doesn't give us this gift. So there's something we have to do, which is initiating this relationship, and then God gives us this gift, like in any relationship in Hasidic discussion. He said, what does it mean? He brings out a metaphor from the Talmud. It says, no raindrop from heaven falls without first having two raindrops go up. What does that mean? So on the simple level, it's explained that every raindrop that falls from heaven really started down here as water and evaporated. The water evaporated. So while you look at it, oh, the rain is coming from heaven. I got news for you. Heaven's rain came from us. They took it from down here. Where do you think it came from? The government's giving you money. And where did the government get the money from? Us. So it's not the government, it's our money. The rain that comes from heaven, while it comes from heaven, but where do you think it came from? The rain water down here, or the water evaporated, it went up, and then it came back down. That's a simple explanation. A deeper explanation is in Kabbalah. And this doesn't mean that it's physiological or biological like this, or actually like this, and I don't know about this topic. This is the way it's described in Kabbalah. That when a raindrop falls into the ocean, two little drops come up to greet it. The concept, and again, what it means exactly, I don't know. It's just a concept I know from reading the Hasidic ideas, but it's brought down that when a raindrop falls from heaven, one raindrop, two raindrops come up like a welcoming committee to receive that raindrop. So for every drop that falls, there's two coming up to welcome. In other words, when you have something coming as a gift, I did something to elicit that gift. And that's how it should be in a relationship with a husband and a wife. The husband and the wife should know that the husband only gives and the wife encourages or invites. So this relationship is that I'm inviting God in. What's that invitation? I do something that God says, you know what? You inviting me? I'm coming. So even though it's true, it's not a salary, it's not a payment, it's not an earned money, but to get this gift, there's something that you did that reached out. And as again, we'll see, that's going to be tzedakah. And we'll see why tzedakah next week or next time we study. But this is the theme. Let's just finish two more lines. And that's why in the process of circumcision, we don't just say, okay, God, could you do the circumcision for us? No. You do your part. You do the circumcision of what you can do. Take care of the core stuff. The fine stuff God will do, but God only does it after you start. You initiate, and God will finish it. L'hasser erlas halev v'klippas hagasa you have to first go and remove the coarse part in order that God should go remove the fine part. And we're going to go and explain. I was going to give you a preview because we're going to stop now. We're going to discuss how tzedakah is that act. There's something about tzedakah that is unique from every single mitzvah, that somehow it is the greatest initiation that we can do, that God says, I'm in. And he responds and reciprocates. It's because in the act of tzedakah is, you see, every single mitzvah, and this is the key we're going to talk about, every single mitzvah, the reward is commensurate, or the result is commensurate to the action. So if I'm going to be, for example, stubborn, but the result is God will be stubborn, makes the situation stubborn to me. If I'm going to be happy, things come back happy. Whatever you do, that's why, what happened to Pari? He went and drowned the Jewish babies. He got drowned in the ocean. He got drowned also. The idea of a response is always commensurate to what we do. There's something about tzedakah which has to do with redeeming our essence quality. Somehow tzedakah represents removing something which covers over ourselves, and that's why God says, "You're doing tzedakah? I'm in. I got you with the response, a gift." That will be God willing next week. Now, I'm leaving Sunday out of town. Because the trip of Israel, I couldn't do the classes. I would like to do it because I'm going to be missing a few Wednesdays. I'm going to try and do the classes the next few weeks. My hope is to do it because it's an opportunity well, I don't want to miss the opportunity of learning 3 weeks in a row. So I'm going to be next Wednesday in Florida for a wedding, and then 2 Wednesdays I'll be in Hungary for this camp. But I think that because I'm ahead, I'll be able to, and the schedule is different, I'll be able to do the classes. I hope so. I will send out in the WhatsApps. But that's today's class. Just an insight of this relationship, it's a beautiful idea here. And the reason why I said it's so practical, I started off saying it's practical. I find that if someone takes this particular chapter and this discussion and applies it to life, to the people that you're in contact with on a deep level with your loved ones, immediate relatives, friends, people in the business, people in the world, it's a certain way you realize how we operate. We operate on so many levels of disconnect. We're so busy protecting ourselves, or we're so much affected by things that happened in the past that we were offended or hurt or bothered by, or we have issues or hang-ups, that we don't oftentimes experience things as we should. We're missing the opportunity. It's not like a one person's challenge. This is the human condition that God gave us in the world, feelings and emotions. And the way to protect ourselves from emotions of being hurt is we defend ourselves.